Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your long Easter holiday. Today we're covering lesson 110, and I'm going to preface this by telling you I do not teach the method that's in the book. It is way too confusing. So I would appreciate you taking good notes on this, because this is actually going to be how to do lesson 110 and 112. So I'll have the same video on for them. I actually will work the other examples on that lesson, but it will be the same method. So in this particular problem, they've already factored the quadratic for us. And this is a domain of reals, so remember that means we can have open, closed dots, and lines when necessary. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take each one of these factors and set them equal to 0 to get what we call our critical points. So this one gives me x equals -2. This one gives me x equals 3. Alright, so on the number line, I want you to place those numbers where they belong. So for example, -2 goes on the left and +3 goes on the right. Okay, just wherever they would be if you graph them on a number line, just mark those numbers. And you'll notice that we just broke the number line up into 3 regions. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay? So what we're going to do in an inequality is we're going to determine which one or ones of those regions solves this inequality that says greater than 0. Well, what kind of numbers are greater than 0 before we go into this? Are they positives or are they negatives? They're positives. Okay, so we're going to be looking for positives when we're done. So now what I want you to do is put each one of these factors, x plus 2, x minus 3, over here on the side. And I want you to select a number in this region, a number in this region, and a number in this region. So like here, I'm just going to plug in -3. Here I'll plug in 0, and here I'll plug in 4. Any number in those regions will give you the same thing. So -3, plug it in right here. -3 plus 2 is a -1, correct? All I need is the sign from that. I don't need to write the number. Okay, now move over to 0. 0 plus 2 is +2, which is a positive number. Then move over to the 4. 4 plus 2 is +6, so that's a positive number. Okay, now move down to the other factor. Use those same numbers. -3 minus 3 would be -6, so put down the negative. Go to 0. 0 minus 3 is -3, so put down the negative. Go to the 4. 4 minus 3 is a +1. All right? Draw a line underneath that. Because if you look back up here, it says this factor times this factor. So now what we're going to do is multiply the signs. So negative times negative is positive. Positive times negative is negative. Positive times positive is positive. And believe it or not, we have the answer right there. So now on a different number line, I want you to put -2 and +3. And remember, we talked about, since this inequality was asking for the products that are greater than 0, we're looking for the pluses, the positives. Well, they're right here, here, and here. So that's what we're going to graph. Now this is where the domain comes in. Domain is reals, but this symbol is only greater than, not greater than or equal to. So that means we put an open dot at -2, an open dot at +3, and we graph where the positives were, which is out here and out here. And you're going to use this process for all of these quadratic inequalities. So if we look at the next one on page 449, this one isn't factored yet. So the difference between the last one and this one is that first of all we have to set it equal to 0, and then we have to factor it. So this would be x squared minus 2x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So again, we're looking for greater than or equal to 0, but this one is an equals. So we're looking for the positives when we're finished. And also remember our domain is integers, so we can only have dots with lines. Okay, just solid dots, no open dots. Alright, so the first thing we really have to make sure we do correctly is we have to factor it correctly. So this would be x and x minus 3 plus 1. So remember now I said take the critical points and set them equal to 0. So x is equal to negative 1 and x is equal to 3. Put those on the number line where they belong. So I wouldn't put a positive 3 on the left and a negative number on the right. It's where they belong on the number line. That breaks it up into 3 regions. And now I put these factors over here on the left, so x minus 3, x plus 1. And we pick numbers. So a number in this region might be negative 2, 0, 4. I always use 0 if I can. As long as 0 isn't one of these numbers, I can use 0 in one of the regions, because it's easy to plug it in. So minus 2 minus 3 is a negative 5. So this is negative. 0 minus 3 is a negative 3. So this is negative. 4 minus 3 is positive 1. So this is positive. And you guys are going to say, well, is it always going to come out like that? There's always an exception to every rule. So don't try to memorize that a chart is going to look in a particular way. Move down to negative 2. Minus 2 plus 1 is a negative 1. So this is a negative. 0 plus 1 is a positive 1, so that's positive. And 4 plus 1 is 5, which is also a positive. Draw your line. Multiply because it says multiply the factors. So negative times negative, positive. Negative times positive, negative. Positive times positive, positive. So then on a different number line, if I can make this work, I have negative 1 and I have positive 3, and this time it's integers. Okay, so it says greater than or equal to. So our critical points are included this time. Okay? Alright, but now the pluses are what we're graphing because it says greater than or equal to 0, but because it's integers, I have to have 3 dots to indicate a pattern. So I need to go out 3 on either side so that I actually indicate a pattern here. Sorry, it's so far down it's not going to show up. Okay, so then I'm going to put dots, 3 dots going each direction. And then I can draw the arrow. Because the 3 dots indicate that that's what the graph is doing. It's only integers. Only integers. Otherwise, if you just put 1 dot and an arrow, it looks like your domain is real numbers. Alright, so on, let's see, on Wednesday when we cover lesson 112, the only difference is going to be, it's going to be less than 0. So when you have less than or equal to, you'll be looking for the negative part of the graph instead of